Hello. So, if you have watched the Spider-Man movie, or if you haven't watched the movie yet but are okay with watching it with spoilers, or if you have never watched any Spider-Man movie but बहुत ज़्यादा FOMO हो रहा है, I'll provide enough context for you to understand things. But if you do not fall into the first three categories, please do not continue this episode. At the risk of ruining my watch time, I'm going to ask you to stop and have the best viewing experience in the theaters. So, to start the episode, no, this is not a paid episode. and Even though there are paid promotions of No Way Home going on, I just like the movie a lot and I wanted to record something on it. And I'm not going to go ahead and shoot a review right away. I'm going to just talk about a few things and you will see how it goes. One thing, before going ahead for this movie, I decided to binge watch every Spider-Man movie that there was. And as I'm watching them now, I just look at the villains and for some reason I relate a little to them. And Spider-Man looks like a dick because I mean, it's not like I'm supporting them. It's just that I felt that most of the villains in the Spider-Man movies were not actually someone who were evil. And you will see a pattern that they just had an accident and became someone who they weren't. For example, if you look at the initial Spider-Man movie, the Tobey Maguire one, in the complete series, you will see four villains and they are not really evil, or they don't want to do the things that they're doing. They don't have evil intentions, unlike most villains that we normally see. If you look at the first movie, Green Goblin, he wasn't his intentions weren't to do what he was doing. Then second movie, Dr. Octopus, again controlled by the AI system in his limbs, which was pretty stupid, but okay. And then Sandman, and you just see that they are not evil by heart. It's just something that they are somewhere a victim of their circumstances, but just because they're doing wrong to others in the process, they are considered to be evil. And I mean, they were, but still. And then even Andrew Garfield uh, के दोनों movies में we see that it was initially Dr. Connors and then Electro, and they were not wrong completely. Like both of them didn't want to be the person that they were. They were trying. Electro तो कुछ कर भी नहीं रहा था बेचारा, गिर गया. And I love the jokes that they've written around it. It was pretty amazing. But it's just this common factor that these villains weren't at wrong. They weren't trying to do something जिसके they didn't have a mission failure. They were trying to do something very nice, but it's just that it didn't work out and it resulted into them being what they are. So I think it was a really good turn of events or spin of events where in the latest movie they are trying to correct it. They're trying to correct keep oh, you know what, these people aren't really bad at heart, but they are still being looked at as villain, and when they go back they die, and their death is somewhere tragic. It's very great that the perspective of the villains was shown into the movie, and it was they were looked at as victims and not just as villains. I like that their while their whatever they did was not celebrated, but things were looked at and they were looked at as someone who can be cured and not someone who has to be destroyed or defeated. So I really liked how it started on that note and how they were getting more and more. Um, no, they were emphasizing more and more on that point. And I don't know. One thing that just sets me off really about Tom Holland Spider-Man is that they have put Guilfoyle or Martin Starr as that enthusiastic school teacher, and anyone who has watched Silicon Valley will feel really uncomfortable looking at Martin Starr that way, him being all, I don't know, excited. I just in my head, Martin Starr, he is a grumpy individual and he has to be that nihilism and cynical character that he has played, in my head it will always be that he's antichrist and whatnot. He worships Satanism. He is that. I think Guilfoyle is playing Martin Starr, not the other way around. It was so perfect. But yeah, um, nonetheless, it was a very great start to begin with. So I'll share something, and I don't know. I think I'll get mixed response from this. But when the movie started in the first half, and I went to a good movie theater, but when the movie started in the first half, there were people who were completing dialogues from the trailer, and there were people who were talking to themselves really loud to a point where everyone in the theater could hear them, and it was just getting really annoying, and I couldn't concentrate on the movie. I was concentrating more on what they were saying, and just all the clutter and the noise. It's one thing for everyone to cheer at a scene, but it's a completely different thing if you start to talk. So I did something evil. I went out and I went to the washroom. My friend was there, and I started talking to him really loud about how everyone in the movie hall was really uneducated, and how it feels like they have come to a movie hall for the first time. And there were a lot of people in the washroom, and it was pretty embarrassing to do this, but then I had to. And when I went back into the movie hall second half, no one said a word, and I was so relieved. And there was this girl right in front of us who was responding to the dialogues. For example, there was a scene where, I don't know, some character said, "Should we do it?" or "Should I do it?" or something like that, and she said no. And it was just, we had had too much at this point, so I just said, "Oh, thanks for letting him know." And the entire theater laughed, and I just expected that she would shut up after that. But then, when after we had the post credit scenes, she said, I can't believe what the fuck just happened." and and the friend who was sitting next to me said, "Oh, really?" And again, everyone laughed, and she left. Not because of embarrassment, because movie khatam ho gayi thi, but still, we would like to believe that it was also because of embarrassment. And oh yeah, if you're going and if you're not too aware of how these movies work, or even if you are, just know that there are two post-credit scenes. Don't miss out on either one of them. So yep, with that being said, um then there was the Aunt May death, and it was obviously supposed to go wrong. And I really like the part that when Aunt May died while they were trying to fix these aliens, um the complete thing didn't turn around to be, "Oh, see, Tom Holland is a nice Spider-Man, and he doesn't want to kill the person who ended up killing her aunt." They showed him going ahead and wanting to do that to a point where someone else had to come and block him. I think I really like the part because it's so realistic. Because after a point, you can't just expect it to go. You have to show some human emotion. You have to show some sort of relatability to the character, and I really like that. A lot of these points, I like the fact that they didn't try to make it I think it's a little unfair to the directors and the story writers, but at the same time, I'm really glad that they didn't try to exercise their own creative narratives over here the way the showrunners of GOT did. I really like the fact that they went ahead and chose to give the audience what they wanted. So I mean, there were a few points, and it is obviously like very, it felt a little forced, but nonetheless I enjoyed it. Where, for example, Willem Dafoe, the actor who played Green Goblin, who by the way did an amazing fucking job, went ahead and say, "You know what, I'm something of a scientist myself," and the whole uh, movie hall just started shouting at the top of their lungs, and it was a pretty great scene. But it did feel a little forced, because obviously when you look at these meme references being quoted anywhere in the movie, It's like, hey, you know what, we are making fun of you, or we are extracting a joke from you. You are not supposed to chime in on that. For example, when Akshay Kumar goes ahead and addresses one of his memes, it's fun, but at the same time, it's like you are supposed to be out of it. I know it contains you, but you're somewhere supposed to be out of it. But nonetheless, it was amazing. It was pretty amazing, and there were many references to this, and I really loved all of them. And then there was obviously the very much talked about scene, which is the three Spider-Mans pointing at each other. And Toby Maguire didn't do it right, and it triggered me so much. But nonetheless, it was very nice and it was very wholesome. Then, moving on, when Ned was trying on magic, and he opened up the portals, and Andrew Garfield came in, it was, the crowd went crazy, and the next few minutes that they spent waiting for Toby to come in were the most restless moments that I've seen in the movie theater till now. Like everyone at that point, no one gave a fuck about the conversation between Zendaya and Andrew Garfield. All they could care about was, oh my god, get Toby as well, get Toby as well. And despite all the controversy down the years, it was really good to see that uh, none of these Spider-Mans in any way were shown to compete. And it was so wholesome to see that, they were hyping each other up. And for example, when Andrew Garfield sat at Statue of Liberty and he was talking about his self-doubt and self-hate, it was just Tobey Maguire is there and he's hyping him up and telling him, you are amazing, you are amazing, you are amazing. And it was just so wholesome to see someone going ahead and they were showing these superheroes actually having a human side. I really like this part about the movie where they have shown that all of these superheroes, they have a human side to them as well. I think time and again this movie has shown the human side of the superheroes, and I think this is something that the other Spider-Man movies or the other Spider-Man series have not been able to do too well. If you're taking Toby or Andrew's Spider-Man series, sure, their human side was shown in terms of how they're dealing with loss and everything else. But if you look at this one, right? Earlier I was thinking that it's maybe easier because they have Tom Holland, who's basically shown as a kid, and it becomes easier to do that when you are having a kid in the movie. But then with this one, I feel that it was much more deeper. It's also because these conversations are not really taboo anymore. But if you're taking Toby and Andrew in case, right? Andrew was able to speak about how he dealt with his loss, and Toby was able to talk about his existential crisis, which led to him not being able to shoot webs. And it was really good to see that. And you, somewhere at some level, you just connect to the actors or the characters, and that was nice. And it was pretty wholesome that it was shown that three guys were mature enough to go ahead and talk about their feelings. And that also showed us that Spider-Man is indeed fictional. But uh, after that, I think I like the fighting scene obviously, but it was great till the point where I saw the three Spider-Mans coming together and jumping after they decided that they are going to work as a team. But after that, like, I don't know if my expectations were bigger than what was shown, or if it was like the scene actually didn't match the level that it could have. I just felt that it felt way too scripted. I mean, I understand that it's a fictional movie and it is scripted obviously, but it shouldn't feel that way, and I think that it did. So that was a small bummer, but nonetheless it was a very very nice fighting sequence. One thing that was very realistic was that at the end of the day, when he's confronting Green Goblin or Willem Dafoe, he wants to go ahead and kill him for killing his aunt, but he does, and he goes ahead and tries to do that, but Toby comes in between, and that was also a very human side of him. That, hey, you know what? You took something from me. I don't fucking care who I am. I don't fucking care if I'm better than you. I'm going to destroy you no matter what. And I think it was great, and I like the fact that they were able to cure every uh, uh, villain and send them back. I really liked Doctor Octopus acting and the character as well, of how he turned things around, how he came ahead and helped the superheroes. I like that they could cure at least one and they didn't went the scripted way and unleashed all of them. And obviously, I think one of the most talked about scenes after the trailer was released has to be addressed. I think the signature Spider-Man scene is the villain pushing the Spider-Man's love interest down. I love that they showed and gave a closure to Andrew Garfield. And I don't like the fact that it was turned into a very funny scene because of Zendayas reaction, but it just felt a little uncomfortable to see that such a wholesome closure moment was given a comedic angle, but I just felt really nice that he was the one to save her, and knowing the complete context about how he couldn't save Gwen in his reality, it just felt very complete. I found the movie a little bit extended, and I know that some of you might not agree, and that's fair. But I felt that it was a little stretched at some point, and uh, especially after the end of the complete fighting sequence, and when Doctor Strange goes and executes the spell or casts the spell that makes everyone forget Peter Parker, and then they're showing his afterlife. It felt a little stretched, but I'm so glad that it wasn't just Tom Holland going ahead and reminding everyone of who he is, and that's nice. For a second, I thought they would make Zendaya date Ned, and it was so cringe. Not because obviously he's best friend and girlfriend, but also because I don't know, man. Seeing Zendaya with some other man just makes you feel uncomfortable. But overall, I think down to it, I can definitely say that this was one of the, if not the best, then at least in the top three best superhero movies that I've seen till now. Um, Going ahead for the post-credit scenes, um, Venom, and also we had the Daredevil cameo. Unfortunately, I had not seen Daredevil. I had been planning on it for a long time, but I couldn't. But when the Daredevil scene came, I had enough FOMO while I was sitting in the theater. But yeah, hota hai, c'est la vie, such is life. And last May, the first post-credit scene was Venom, and it was a pretty good. And I was like, cool, cool. But then the second post-credit scene came up, and we were like, whoa, what the fuck? And I saw Elizabeth Olsen, and my heart skipped a beat again, once again. But then you see Supreme Strange, and that was a little chilling because when I watched the What If episode, where if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hand, I wanted more of evil Doctor Strange, or Supreme Strange. And when I saw him in the movie, there is something about Benedict Cumberbatch being evil that gives you that satisfaction. And I don't know, I'm really looking forward to that movie. So, all in all, a really great watch. I would really recommend, if you want, go ahead and watch this movie in theaters. If you have not watched the previous Spider-Man movies, Please watch the previous Spider-Man movies. You'll not get anything if you don't. I had to rewatch all of it to just remind myself of whatever happened, and I can definitely see that it was very useful. It came pretty handy inside the movie while watching the movie. So, yeah, on that note, I'm releasing another episode on New Year's. It's going to come out next week. So, it's basically two episodes back to back. I'm going to take a 2 to 3 week leave after that. The New Year episode talks about just New Year basically and how it's celebrated in India, how it has evolved over the time, what the past year has been like. I do a mini 2021 rewind, and then it's just a wholesome closing note, I guess. I mean, I'll let you folks decide if it was wholesome or cringe. There's a very thin line between wholesome and cringe. But nonetheless, let's sign off now. See you in the next episode. Bye.
Hold up.